Bizarre that people are scared to have money, but we're not scared to take out a ton of debt.
Man, when I was young, we used to have competitions who could get higher credit card limits.
Telling yourself like I'm not good with money. For sake, stop doing that.
I reckon I've got screenshots of my bank accounts at like 50K, and I've got screenshots at 100K, and I don't think I got screenshots at 1 million.
Wow.
Because I just didn't care.
People overestimate their ability to pick the perfect investment and get everything right, but we underestimate the power of just starting. Why have you decided or believed that you can't do it when you are so much more powerful and we have so much access to information, networks, connections, and knowledge in this day and age? Why the did you choose to believe that it couldn't be you? Mikey, does having money scare you?
It didn't help me fix my back this morning.
The man is in a world of pain sitting
I'm in
across from me.
so much pain.
Yeah, talk us through that quickly.
Yeah, I've got a few issues. I mean, I've just got out of the dock, and I've got left-hand sciatic nerve problem. I've got a lower back cracked T6 vertebrae or something, a bulging disc, and a torn right latissimus muscle or something like that. Absolute carnage, mate.
You're in a world of pain. And
it's very sore, yeah.
Golf. This is an ACC accident by the seams. An accident at golf, maybe.
Yeah, I don't. Does ACC mean that it was at golf?
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
Golf means it was ACC.
Yeah, you might be up for an ACC.
I paid
claim.
a few
Should you be
bills,
off
but
work?
like I would have paid a lot more to get looked at faster.
Yeah.
And then also, I was a little bit sad when the doctor like gave me all of this bad news, and then he's like, "Oh, here's some Voltaren and some Panadol." I was like, "Brother,
I can get that. At
what about the
Countdown.
stem cell shit I keep hearing about? Where you chuck in an injection, I'm good in a week. I'll give you 5 Gs." Nah. It's just not how we roll. So,
Well, they say that without your health, you have no wealth, mate. So you might be learning.
yeah,
that
well,
lesson.
my wealth is definitely not helping with my back at the moment. So
Yeah.
I've never been injured.
Ever.
Ever.
Oh.
I've broken bones and stuff, like, and have been in a cast, but I've never been like injured where you can't just have like a solution. Like when you break a bone, you just like strap it up and then it heals, and then once it's healed, you're back to normal.
Yeah.
But this is like slowly degrading because it's been a little bit of a problem since last year, but obviously I've overcooked it now, and now I've really,
You got to deal with it.
yeah.
Oh,
So
tough.
probably like 2 months of like no like extra stress on the bits and pieces.
Is that what they've said?
Yeah.
Sheesh.
It's how long it takes for the muscle to heal back up, and got to do some exercises to try and stretch the back and all of this kind of shit. I mean, fuck, I don't know.
You do as you're told, mate. You'll do as you're told.
When I was young and I was a skater, because skaters are built different, and you can just heal, or you just don't believe you're in pain and you just keep going. So I'll probably, after like a week, I'll probably go back to that mindset.
Back into the skate bowl.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we're
So,
wishing
yeah.
you all the best for the recovery, mate. Bit of empathy in the comments from the people. Wouldn't
I
go
don't think
straight
anyone gives a fuck.
Probably not. I want to read you something that I got sent, and then we're going to tear into this podcast. It says, "Hey, Luke, I wonder if you'd be willing to ask your audience this question. I've seen you do this before, so I thought I'd try. I've recently come into some money, around $150,000 to $200,000. I'm scared of holding this in my bank, and I'm scared of holding this. Oh, I'm pretty sure they mean I'm scared of holding this in my bank, and I'm trying to figure out where to invest. I thought it meant that they're scared of it holding them back. Anyway, they're scared of holding it in their bank. I'm trying to figure out where to invest. I feel clueless. I'm not working many hours right now as I'm a full-time student, so property is out. Would love to hear some people's ideas around this." Now, instantly, I'm like, this is dangerous, like going to an Instagram audience, being like, "Hey, guys, what would you do with
Yeah,
150,
see it on
200K?"
Facebook groups, like property things all the time as well.
Oh, thanks so much. Love your work. Your podcast and endless discourse around money and the economy has really inspired me and so many others. Question from me. So this was a question that I had because I think this is really dangerous, like going to social media when people don't know anything about you, don't know your goals, don't know your age, don't know your risk profile, don't know your situation. Because from what I've learned in my life, when you ask people for advice, especially people you don't know well and don't know you well, they basically give you advice that they would give themselves. So, if you're really risk averse, someone would be like, or if you've ever lost money in the stock market, they'd be like, avoid stocks, stick to term deposits.
Yeah.
And not understand inflation or whether the
Yeah.
money's getting chewed up. So I, out of interest, because I thought this could make a great podcast topic, are you scared of money and having money? Because I've got some other examples too. I said, question from me, why does having money scare you? Because that's part of their wording that they use.
Yeah.
You're going to get a whole heap of unqualified responses from people who don't understand your goals. You need to understand that. And I don't often post something like this because 150 grand to 200K is serious coin without people understanding you, your goals, etc. So I'd suggest speaking to a financial advisor. However, I may post this with a disclaimer just to see what people have to say. So we're not going to focus on what everybody's suggestion was with it. We're going to focus on what this is all about. Why do we get scared when we have money? So they came back and said, thanks for the question. Feeling into it, a few things come up. I have a belief system around not being good with money, even though I earn this money. Wild, huh? This all stems from childhood, and I'm trying to work on reframing it. But I'm scared of whittling it away or having such a large amount and not doing something constructive with it, or the right thing / investment. Now, for context, I started a business in 2029. It took off and I sold my shares, which left me with $600,000 in total. I've invested part of it in property already, and that leaves me with the said 150 to 200K. So they've started a business, built it, and sold it, and netted 600K. Amazing in its own right to start with.
Just do that again.
I'm not really able to work right now.
Oh, yeah.
So there's fear around this money relating to that. I'll definitely reach out to a financial advisor. Thanks for your time. So I just thought it was really fascinating to start with. So it starts off as somebody who's got 150K to 200K. They're scared, but they've also built a $600,000 investment that they've then sold. Amazing. Tax-free, I'd imagine, too. Sale of those shares, most likely.
That's a little bit more to unpack than I thought initially when it was like,
yeah,
are you scared about money, having money?
But I think the answers from this person are in here. This all stems from my childhood, and I'm trying to work on reframing that. And then also I have a belief system around not being good with money, even though I earn this. Wild, huh? Now, it got me thinking, why is it that once we have a large sum of money that we get scared? Why is it different? And I saw an example recently where it was like someone, put $100 on a table, and they're like, what does that make you feel? And they're like, well, nothing. 500. Oh, okay. What, 1,000? Actually, you know what? There's 10 Gs. And as the amount got more, it was like, okay, it started to create more emotional response from the person. But the paper, which was the money, was still just paper. And the person said, what do you think the money thinks about you? Nothing. It doesn't give a fuck about
money.
you.
Doesn't care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't have emotion. It doesn't have these things.
Yeah.
But as money, I think as the amount becomes more, then we apply more emotion, and we get scared. We have the stuff about our upbringing, childhood, all the stuff.
The only main thing about it's when you start pricing stuff in the future. So if you've got 200 or if you like the money is growing on the table and it's showing you, the reason you start feeling a certain way when it's $1 million sitting on the table as opposed to 100 is because in your brain, you're thinking of the car you can drive and the house you can live in and the holidays you can take if you have access to that. And the reality is like, it doesn't really mean that you can do it once you get that stuff either. You can do certain parts of it, but it doesn't solve all of your problems. It doesn't solve, it doesn't help you become a journeyman and become an expert in what you do. Like if you just get it given to you, it can be scary if you don't know what to do with it, for sure. Because it can I've seen it ruin people's lives.
Well, I think there's a good line there, if you don't know what to do with it. And I think that's the bit, is we're all scared to do the wrong thing with it. And so that's why it scares the shit out of me. Recently, someone else messaged me and they were about to inherit $500,000. And they said, this scares the shit out of me. Yeah. Because I've been used to living so frugally for so long. Yeah. So everybody's fear or scared, you've got to unpack it for yourself to figure out, like, what is that?
Yeah. A good question to ask yourself is my belief system wrong? Just recheck in with yourself, eh?
Nice.
Because if you're so used to living frugally and you have another $500,000, doesn't mean you don't have to stop living frugally.
True.
Like you can not go and start pricing like the Ferrari in your head and shit and go and waste it and turn into a massive spender overnight. People do, and that's probably why scares the shit out of them, because you've seen all the stories of lotto and going broke and all of that kind of thing. But there is definitely something to be said about earning it.
Mm.
You have a better understanding and have more value over it as opposed to inheriting or being given it, unless you've been trained really well by the person who you're inheriting from to look after it and treat it right and blah, blah, blah. But yeah, there is definitely people who go and earn it definitely know how to manage it better in general, I think.
It's interesting because I asked somebody who come into money I asked them about this. Did it scare you? And then we started to walk through some of these things. So I was asking in their words, like what was it like for you? And they said that they felt a pressure to capitalize on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, where's the pressure to capitalize on it coming from? Well, I wanted to ensure I was making the right decisions. I said, well, how would you know that you're going to make the right decision? So I just kept I'm trying to understand here. So I said, how would you know what the right decision is? And then could you acknowledge that you don't, but you will with hindsight? And they said, well, it's the fear of getting it wrong. And then there was also the pressure to do the same as others. So it could be property and then they said, as they unpacked it further, like, actually, you know what? It's the pressure of suddenly having more options, which is, when we have options, we can be indecisive and lack action because then all of a sudden, like if you've got a little bit of money left over, you learn what you're going to do, where you're going to direct that.
Yeah, it's harder to get it wrong because there's less options too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden when you've got more money, then you've got to figure out, okay, where am I going to aim this? But then they said, and it also devalued the effort that I'd put into other efforts to earn the money myself. So, yeah,
interesting.
So by receiving the money, they then felt more pressure to do right with it or not get it wrong because it then made them question or it devalued all the work that they'd done to earn the money that they had built from nothing, which is fascinating.
Some of that pressure and stuff isn't bad though, right? Like just because you're feeling pressure to capitalize on it, that's not a bad thing.
No.
I guess the bad thing is if you go and do it and then lose it all. That's what the fear is, right?
Yeah.
But it's your money.
So on the options piece, I said, okay, so talk me through options. He's like, okay, property, stocks, different forms of investments. I said, okay, what if you had a chip implanted in your head and you knew everything that was to know about each of those things? And they're like, okay, well, that would probably make it easier. So my point being that I think it's the lack of education when it then comes, because now you've got these options, but you don't have the education. So of course we're scared. Okay, I'm about to inherit all this money. I'm scared shitless. Why are you scared shitless? Because you don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
Because you don't have the education. So all the gap is the education.
It's the education, and then you've never been when you turn up with more bullets to unload. You're not, because you're not used to that. You haven't seen opportunities arise before either, because you haven't been in the space to be able to pull the trigger. And I think I spent a lot of time training myself forward to look for that. Like I spent a lot of time thinking about, in 5 years, if these numbers are where this is at, then I'll be able to do this, and don't miss looking over here at that time, or pointing in this direction at that time. And I spent a lot of time thinking about that in advance, and I have zero capacity to do it at the moment.
Yeah.
But I know that if I get to that certain number or whatever, then I have to make sure that, like, that's literally how far ahead I'm thinking in terms of, if I have this pot of money, I won't be scared. I'll just be ready.
And this is something I was going to ask you. Have you had a bank account with $1 million sitting in it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Most people would never see that in there. So you log into your internet banking, there's $1 million sitting there.
Yeah.
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 Were you scared?
Nah, bro, I just sent it out the next day. Felt nothing.
So how were you not scared?
I think it's that thinking forward and planning for it. Every single dollar at that stage that I had in my account was earmarked for something else. Like, it was all planned out, ready to be deployed. It just needed to enter the account so I could go and do it. So that's very different to inheriting something though, right? Like, that was earned money.
Yeah, it took you fucking ages to
Yeah, that's very different to like just the million turning up in my bank account without going to work for it and then not knowing what to do. That's two super different scenarios, I think. In saying that, because I've had like the 10,000 and the 100,000 and the 500,000 and the million sitting there, and I've gone through each stage, I reckon if 50 mil turned up in my bank account, it wouldn't scare me now.
Wouldn't, yeah.
Nah, I think I've got enough experience in that sort of, what do you call that? That kind of zone that you have to get into and move and operate through and take action with. I've thought about all sorts of ways that I'd deploy it into different amounts, whether I'd choose like diversification and all of this kind of thing. And I'm an all-in guy, so so that'll never happen. But
New Zealand rental market, watch out.
So, but in terms of, I know what these people are, what people are talking about when they're scared of having lumps like that. And the closest thing I can relate to is I had something a little bit similar, like selling a car or something for more money than I thought I would have got for it back in the day. And I had this money sitting in my account and it was the most I ever had. It was like 45 grand or something. And I was young. And I think the reason that I got scared then is because I knew that I'd go out on the piss. I knew that I'd go and waste it. I knew that I'd go and put a new radio system in my car. And like, that's what my goals and plans were at the time. And then it like eats you because you know that there's shit goals and plans. And I think it's subconsciously your brain's telling you that you're a fucking idiot for doing this and you do it anyway. And that's what scares you about having a big lump of money in your account because you know you don't know how to use it and you haven't put any time and effort into doing something properly with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. You haven't put any time and effort into doing something properly with it.
Well, thinking about how to deploy it.
Yeah.
Getting in the KiwiSaver fund that suits you and your situation is key to making sure you're maximizing your investment. Generate are an award-winning KiwiSaver provider with a track record of long-term performance, and they can help you do exactly this. Their advisors can meet with you to talk about all your options when it comes to KiwiSaver to help you decide what's best for you. Too many people never get KiwiSaver advice, but not you. Go to generatekiwisaver.co.nz/change to book a no-obligation chat with a Generate advisor. A copy of the product disclosure statement is available at generatekiwisaver.co.nz. The issuer of the scheme is Generate Investment Management Limited, and of course, past performance does not guarantee future returns.
And I think you erode your self-confidence too when you start blowing money that you know you should do something with.
Yeah.
And you know, like deep down, okay, I'm smarter than that. And I mean, I went through phases of that where I would, start stacking and stuff. And
This is important because when you are a bit smarter than that, it can get you into more trouble because you also then think, I can go a bit further in the wrong because I know I can get myself out. Like, that was probably you a bit with like the Q card and shit back in the day, right?
Yeah,
You're like, I'm going to be a high earner.
Yeah.
I can take this risk right now because I know that I'll be able to dig out of the hole. And that's like your own capability working against you.
Yeah, I think a lot of Kiwi people live there. And
Yeah, because we're actually quite smart people, I reckon.
Well, someone messaged me last night, and this is no shade on them, and basically they said about Q Card, they were like, yeah, I used that for Christmas presents, like all this stuff when I lost my job. And it's basically, if we're really honest with ourselves, we know we shouldn't do that, and we should have a rainy day fund.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be, when we lose our
on
income.
the edge, yeah.
Yeah, when we lose our income, we, like, okay, I need to not do any of that stuff. Sorry, I can't buy you a Christmas present, can't. But basically, it was, well, I knew I was going to get another job, a good job soon. As soon as I did, I paid it down and I got rid of it.
Yeah.
And I think deep down we know, we're like, fuck. We just played Russian roulette a little bit there.
You're playing with fire there, eh?
Yeah, and not everybody gets out of that alive, or that can be very dangerous. But also, what we do when we do that is we tick up a win. Like, no, nothing went wrong.
It worked.
Yep, I can do that. And okay, maybe I should have a $50,000 credit card. Amex are doing them. Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
I've never got behind on the payments. Like nah.
You were playing with fire there, eh?
Yeah.
Because then you start. Yeah, all of a sudden it gives you confidence to go further down that rabbit hole, and you don't want to be over there, eh?
Bizarre that people are scared to have money, but we're not scared to take out a shit ton of debt.
Man, when I was young, we used to have competitions who could get higher credit card limits.
Oh, jeez.
What a stupid game, eh? Because
Yeah.
back then the rules were different with finance, and you'd call up the bank and then try and like smooth them up.
Yeah.
We were like 19 or something,
Yeah.
And luckily for me, I was not really a credit card user, so I was literally just doing it for the game. But yeah, not good, eh?
No. That
You
is.
know, don't play those games.
So back to you and having $1 million, I guess what I've seen through your journey and probably what I've learnt from mine too that probably crosses over is that you start getting yourself ready ahead of having the money. So then when it happens, you're more comfortable with it. And I think there's probably lesson one if you are scared.
Do you know what? If I go through my photos, I reckon I've got screenshots of my bank accounts at like 50K, and I've got screenshots at 100K, and I don't think I got screenshots at $1 million
Wow.
because I just didn't care. By that time, to get there, I think you have to be at a certain level and then train yourself to go past it and operate well above it, like a 10 million level or
Yeah. Yeah, because the thing that I think has really helped me is starting to build the character that you need to run the life that you're going to have. So the simplest way I could explain this and what I often talk about is when I was back to broke and when I didn't have much income coming in, I knew that I was going to be a high income earner and I was really on the path now. And I went looking for information of, okay, what am I going to do with that cash as it starts to happen? So the rule was, okay, 40% has to go aside, then you live off of the 60. Yep. That's going to make me stay at home longer, stay in the shittier apartment or whatever, and live off of the smaller amount of money. So then I started learning that habit early.
Yeah.
And then...
It's a good habit, man.
Yeah.
It's a real goodie.
And it delayed a lot of the lifestyle decisions I could make because I was forced into rule one, which was, no, you have to put 40% aside.
Yeah.
So, no, you can't get the flasher apartment. You can't have the coolest shit. Doesn't work, bro.
Man, you thank yourself so much for that kind of behavior later on, though, eh?
And in my iPad, I still have notes mapped out of like, okay, if I'm making $6,000 a month, if I'm making 8, 9, 10.
Yeah.
And like my goal was, can I get to $20,000 a month, like net? What would that be like? And like dumping $8,000 into the market every month. That'd be crazy, And so I was already playing with that back here when broke still.
Yeah.
But I knew that those were the habits I was going to need. And then I, would see people talking about, I'm not good with money, having money scares me, things like that. And I'd be like, well, that's not talking like that to myself is not going to serve me if I'm going to make a lot of money. And recently I was talking to Simon Phillips on the podcast and I said, do you need different habits and need to be a different person to manage? Like he wants 40 grand net coming in a month.
Yeah.
I think it was. Then he's going to 100. And I'm like, do you need better habits? Because he's like blowing some serious cash in his life. And he was basically like, well, yeah, because, I'm still validating the trip to Ibiza. And I'm like, fuck it, the world could end. And so if you think like that, then you start to act like that. So
yeah,
I was trying to teach myself, okay, I can't install bad software with money and then be like, oh, I'm going to know exactly what to do with it, how to invest it, how to handle volatility.
Yeah.
So I started teaching myself and telling myself, you're capable of managing large sums of money. That does not scare you. You're a high income earner. You know exactly what to do with it when it comes into your bank account. And like rinse and repeat. Think like that. Talk about it. Play it back to myself.
I think another helpful thing if you get into that kind of scenario is to be like, what would the person who does this perfectly or very well, a millionaire that has $500,000 turn up in their bank account for inheritance, how would they operate and how would they act around this? And you'll probably start thinking of the way that they would do it, and it will give you clues on how you should do it, because they're probably not going to, well, yeah, they might go buy a rental property, but it would help you through stuff, and they're probably not going to go buy like an Evo and
They're probably not scared anyway.
No, they're not scared of it. They're just going to sit down, take their time, think, be patient, make a few calls, be okay if some of them are wrong, try and get some right, be balanced. And then just don't hit the pub every day.
Yeah.
Is probably a good one.
The inversion thinking podcast would probably be very good here because likewise, you could also go the other way and go, okay, what do I want to avoid? How could
Such a good way to do it, eh?
Yeah, how could I fuck this up?
Yeah, let's write down every possible way I rinse this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you've got your roadmap of like, okay,
Don't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, start
and
with it.
when you start to do that, now
Yeah.
you know that you're breaking the contract that you have with yourself. So you should feel a bit shitty, like, I know I should have put myself in that situation, nor paid for that, nor done that, because I've already mapped out what not to do.
Such a good way to do it, man. Writing down all the things that the best ways to cock it up is a great way of just giving you a avoid high at all cost risks list.
I wrote down, money is neutral. It only amplifies who you are. Now, being scared is an emotion. Again, money, digits on a screen, metal, paper, no emotion. We do it. And once I think you understand that and truly come to terms with that, it's actually really freeing, because then whenever you get negatively impacted emotionally by money, you know that it's you. Like, it doesn't have anxiety written on the fucking front of it. It doesn't have,
No, it doesn't.
it doesn't say like start a massive fight with your family.
Yeah, get a divorce.
Yeah.
Seriously.
It doesn't have any of that shit.
Nah.
We do that. It's a tool. So fear around money isn't really about money. It's about control, confidence, and clarity.
Sorry, that's funny.
The best investment you can make is in your own ability to manage your wealth wisely. Now, I wonder also, why don't we learn, if this is so important, and we're going to see a massive shift of wealth from one generation to another, should it make it down and not get caught by all of the healthcare companies and the rest care providers.
Yeah.
Cryman, shout out to them.
If there's any left after they all go broke.
Yeah. Shit, they are really holding on at the moment. Why do we not teach people about managing wealth? Why is it not a topic we learn about? Now, conspiracy in us would probably suggest, that probably because we haven't had enough generations of wealthy to then pass that information on. Like, that's not a conspiracy. The conspiracy would be, well, we don't want people to be wealthy. We want people to fuck it up.
Yeah. Well, we want people to own nothing and be happy, mate.
Yeah, and spend it all.
Yeah.
Yeah, and give it to the credit providers.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm a bit of a conspiracy theorist, and then also a bit of a should be rightist. I reckon, zooming out, because I've been like involved in this space about wondering why we aren't more educated around wealth at school and stuff like that for a long time. And I reckon there's a tide change. I reckon more and more people are starting to do their own work on it and work it out. And it feels like right now, like post the COVID, the big money printing era and all of that kind of stuff, I feel like there's a lot of eyes that have been opened to how all of that goes on. And I think people are, there's two camps, right? There's like everything's a mess and it's all a waste of time and blah, blah, blah. Or there's like a bit of self-responsibility and like, yes, these are the problems. Let's go and learn how to protect myself how I can. I reckon there's a bit of a sea change there, eh?
Well, I reckon it's the reduction in friction. So if we think about it, there's all this information's always been available, but it lived in a library and a book.
Yeah.
You get a book, you have to sit down, you have to sit your ass down and not move, and then you've got to read it, and then you've got to go away and take action. It takes a long time to read a book. You look at everything now, it's like, if reading books was so popular, then libraries would be cranking, but we also wouldn't need audiobooks. Now, just about any good book, you're like, if it doesn't have an audio book, some people it's different. They'll go on a holiday and they'll read a fiction book about some fucking sci-fi bullshit.
Man, I haven't read a book since Harry Potter.
But then we've got YouTube, we've got
Then
podcasts.
I use audiobooks.
You know, I'm in the gym this morning and then in the sauna after. People are listening. I can hear them listening to podcasts in the sauna.
I was like coming from the hospital to here, I was listening to a podcast with Jensen Huang, the NVIDIA guy, talking about like how to operate a company.
Yeah.
Like how gangster is that?
Yeah.
Like 2 hours of him being like, oh no, this is how we do it and this is what was happening in 1999 and like the reason that we had like a 13-year period of no one knowing what we're up to. Like all of this crazy shit
Can be learnt.
it's all available to us, for free.
Yeah.
Wild.
We've got a wealth transformation, but we have a knowledge transformation too. And the knowledge transformation is probably the more important piece, because once you have the knowledge, then you can manage the wealth.
Yeah, for sure.
And that, we probably need to do a pod on that.
That takes away the fear though.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because if you have the knowledge, then why be scared?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But also, if you know where you're going, then your actions become clearer. I think a lot of Kiwi people and people in general don't know where they're going. So of course it's going to scare you.
That's probably because the property train stopped. Because you used to just get on there and it'd be sweet, you know?
Well, on that, so I speak to somebody recently and they were talking about how someone they know was about to buy another rental. And they started asking, like, why are you buying another rental? And they're like, oh, because like, it's what you do. And they're like, oh, but aren't you getting close to retirement? We're like, yeah, but like we've been told that you just need to get another one because we can and we've got the equity. And they're like, well, why don't we assess all the numbers, etc. And they're like, no, we don't want to do that. I'm like, why don't you want to do that? We're scared to look at it all. What's in your KiwiSaver? Not sure. What do you mean you're not sure? Like,
That's wild, eh?
yeah.
That is insanity.
Turns out, so this is not just young people. Turns out, like they could be retiring tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then basically don't need to buy the rental property. Okay. And they're stoked. They're like, oh, awesome. Like we didn't really want to anyway, but we were sort of told you're in the position to, you should be getting another one. So they're into decumulation rather than accumulation.
Yeah.
But again, like you've got to know where you're going, plus get some advice, or maybe advise yourself. But if you don't know like why you're doing things and where you're going, life's always going to be hard because it's hard to take definitive action because you don't have a definitive outcome or
You've
goal.
got to your numbers, man. Oh, God.
Yeah.
That is terrifying.
So, some points here, mate. People struggle with having money because these are some things I wrote down, like fear of loss. So they're scared that they'll waste it, make a bad decision, or let it slip away. You know, fear of wasting it versus fear of not using it at all is something to think about too. Because you can just let money rot. You could take the cash, put it under your mattress, but then what? Like maybe now you're scared of being burgled.
Yeah.
So you put it all into gold. Where are you going to put your gold?
Yeah.
Have it at home. What if someone comes and steals it?
Yeah, yeah.
What if the Reserve Bank, they print more money and they
Yeah.
devalue your cash and they dilute your purchasing power?
Like they do.
Yeah. Now that's been stolen as well.
Yeah.
So I guess that's what you said on a recent podcast where people are sort of forced into having to learn to invest and this shit because they don't have the confidence that their money's not going to stay the same. I think you left a comment on social media about that recently where it's like,
Yeah.
you know,
Probably.
but it makes sense.
Some of my
right?
comments on social media recently have been absolutely savage, eh? I don't know where it comes from.
You've been punching them out or coming back to you?
No, I've been punching them out.
nice.
Yeah, I've been saying some brutal stuff about central banks and politicians and
Might be that back injury. Number 2, lack of financial confidence. So you don't trust yourselves to manage it well. Now, I knew this, and we were talking about this before. Back in the day, I'd be like, if I get money, I'm probably going to do something stupid with it because I haven't taught myself how to manage it, nor I don't know why I'm doing it or where I'm directing it or why I want to do that. So then I can't trust myself to look after it. And this could be due to past experiences or upbringing or telling yourself shit like I'm not good with money.
yeah.
For fuck's sake, stop doing that.
Yeah.
No one raised you to be like, oh, you should go around telling yourself that you're not good with money.
It's the dumbest thing ever.
Where did that come from?
Yeah.
You know, that's not a chapter at school.
There are genuine things that you can say that you're not good at after you've figured it out. I think I remember you saying that you've decided at some point that you didn't have the right body to be a warrior.
Correct.
Yeah. So eventually you figure that kind of stuff out, right? But your body type doesn't matter in terms of money management. Like you can't talk yourself negatively in the wrong direction and keep doing it. It's so unhealthy to do that.
Yeah.
There are legit physics things that all of us are not capable of doing, and you can say, I'm not gonna be a good league player, or like me, I'm not gonna be Michael Schumacher or Max Verstappen. I can't drive. I can't even keep my license. But you can't say that you can't be good at managing your money.
No.
Because, yeah, that's that belief system I was saying before. Like maybe just check on your belief system.
Yeah, and maybe change it. So
Yeah.
previously I haven't made good financial decisions. However, this is what I'm doing to counter that going forward. And I am good at managing money is a lot different to I'm not very good with money.
Yeah.
Be very careful of the shit you tell yourself. I deal with business owners all the time where I double check them on. They'll say something. I'll say, okay, can you show me the data for that?
Yeah.
I'm like, well, unless we have the data, we're not going to talk like that because
Yeah.
we're not implanting a way to live with no data
Yeah.
based on not wanting to unpack what you're really, thinking. And I think the good thing when people say, I'm not good with money, that that's a cop out and you can stay there. But then you get into, okay, like what does that mean? What would it take to be good with money, etc. Then you've got to do the work. And I think that I'm not good with money or I'm not good at math or whatever just stops us from having to
It
take
is a
any
cop
action.
out.
Yeah, 100%.
It's an excuse.
Decision paralysis, so too many options lead to inaction, and then we fear picking the wrong one. And of course, like as soon as we take action and invest into A2 milk, the supply thing in China stops and bang, and the price drops, and you're like,
I think though in that scenario, your favorite one there, a little bit of gratitude to be in that situation is probably helpful as well. That just came across me then, because if you've got a point where you're like, oh, I've got too many options, I'm probably going to make the wrong one. It'd be like a better thought process to be like, wow, this is so cool. I've got so many options. I've just got to be careful and be smart about this, as opposed to like, if I put it in A2 and it whatever, I don't know.
Yeah. But you can be excited about it, like holy shit.
That's
I've
what I
got this
mean.
money, I'm excited.
Bit of gratefulness, eh?
Yeah, but and so you flip the emotion from negative to positive. So instead of being scared, like I'm excited by what my life could now look like by having this money.
Yeah, for sure.
Whether you've earned it, made it, stacked it, whatever. And I think as well, there's a few people who've kind of copied my teaching around stacking 100K, and now they're like, fuck, I've got to figure out what to do with it now and invest it. And yeah, like you do. Like I can't do that for you.
Yeah.
The stacking 100K was like try and do something that most people will tell you can't be done in this country.
These are healthy problems to have though, eh?
Big time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you learn the journey through, like, if you know you're going to get to the 100K, like we were talking about before, and you know you're going to start investing there or you're going to deploy some of it, you got to figure it out through. You're building yourself and giving yourself time through to getting the 100K as well as to, okay, what are you going to do? So guilt and unworthiness. Some feel they don't deserve wealth, especially if they didn't earn it in a traditional way. Definitely see this, with inheriting money and some of the emails and stuff where because they haven't earned it, like we were talking about before, it's like, oh, do I like? Because every society is basically like you got to work for it, you got to earn it.
Yeah.
So then I think when we inherit or something comes as a surprise, it is a bit like, okay, we need to get rid of some of this because maybe I don't deserve it or I'm not worthy. But again, that's all in here.
Yeah, it's
like,
who said money doesn't care? It's not written on the note, like you said. Yeah.
No, it doesn't, you don't log into your internet banking and in the line underneath it, instead of it saying account transactions, it says you don't deserve this.
Go and waste it.
Yeah. Like it's just fucking numbers on a screen again. Pressure to do the right thing, which we've touched on. The weight of responsibility makes people hesitant to take action. And what even is the right thing? Like only you know what the right thing is through getting advice or knowing where you're going. So, some people, they might come into a sum of money and then it might be like, okay, invest and do it all safely in passive dividends. But then like if you didn't get advice, you might be like, oh, but I'm dying in 6 months. Oh, fuck, sorry, mate. Like you should probably go and, what do you want? Oh, I really want to see the world. Like, oh, we need to get you, like, let's get to a travel agent.
Yeah.
Like deploy it. Let's go.
Yeah.
Like, invest in your life.
It's definitely going to be each individual's.
Yeah, and that's where I was trying to say to this person asking this question. I was like, you got to be careful because people don't know, like, then they said in here, I can't work at the moment. Well, they didn't put that into the first bit.
Yeah.
So now the advice is completely different.
Yeah, for sure.
For them if they were to speak to an advisor, right? Identity lag. Now, what this means is you still see yourselves as the person before you had the money, not someone capable of handling it well, which we've touched on too. Yep. So both Mikey and I are giving examples of how you're trying to change your identity or your character for who you are going to become. Then Mikey gets $1 million in his bank account. He doesn't ring someone and be like, oh my God, I'm so scared. It's just like he already knows what he's going to do with that cash. External noise, this is the classic. Everyone's going to want to have an opinion.
Yep.
And they're probably going to think about their situation. So be careful, because you've got to be able to filter out good advice from bad advice. So be careful how many people you're going to tell. And then lastly, like lack of clear plan, without direction, money feels like a burden for some people rather than a tool. At its core, it's not a money problem, it's a mindset problem.
Oof.
Yeah.
Cutting hard there.
So
it's so true though, eh?
100%.
It's all in the 6 inches in between your ears for sure.
Yeah. Even like we've had clients where they'll stack money and they'll have a rainy day amount of money, then they need to dip into it, and then they shit themselves when they get into it. I'm like, that's why you put it there.
Yeah. That was it's named that. The account's named for that.
Yeah. And they're like, oh, and they're freaking out because it's not back at that figure. Yeah. And again, like, you can have money and do this. You can have money and then be gutted when the markets are decreasing. You can have money, be gutted when you've got to dip into it and use it and deploy it.
Yeah. You have to be careful with money not to recreate zero. I always have this thing where I like having $100,000 over in this account.
Yeah.
And whenever it goes under, it feels like I've gone negative.
Yeah.
And you have to talk yourself out of it. It's like, no, it was for that or whatever the reason is, Because you recreate zero at 100 and that's like the new zero. And if you go below it, it's like, ugh.
Yeah.
But yeah, you've got to be careful not to be hard on yourself in that regard because you've done all the work to get to that point.
Just on that, I saw a type of a credit card the other day and man, they're so smart, hey? The way I read the statement was this person was $2,500 in credit. And it said like that's kind of how it was worded on the statement was like...
As in, It's a $5,000 limit. They owe 2.5, but there's 2.5 left, so it's in credit.
Yes.
That's dirty, eh?
Yeah. So I was looking, I was like, oh, wow, you've paid more onto your credit card than you need to. Buzzy, you should just get a debit card. They're like, what? I'm like, well, it says there that you've got like credit available. I'm like, no, that's how much I've still. I'm like, oh, you owe 2.5 G's on this thing. You know, like it is so. Yeah, they're so clever how they do this shit.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so a couple of things to think about, which we've touched on throughout, but have a think about like becoming the person that you need to be. If you're going to be inheriting money, earning a lot of money, coming into money, like when you win lotto, they don't say like, oh, congratulations, come back in a year, let us know how you got on. They're like, you're going to need a financial advisor. There's a process you need to go through because they know that you don't have the education. Now think about too, like if you knew you were going to win lotto, like when most people, or if people win a lot of money, they've probably thought, okay, what am I going to do with this? It might be right or wrong what they're going to do with it, but each to their own. But if you knew you were going to win lotto, it would be a lot different when you finally won it, the feeling, than if you won it by surprise. Now, there was a young fella message this week, and he won $500,000 at the casino.
Oh, yeah, I saw that, I think.
Unreal, eh?
Yeah, that's cool.
Now, I think he got, I don't really understand how, some sort of progressive jackpot, but you pay to play into that on blackjack. And I think he got 2 or 3 lots of diamonds. So like 7 diamonds were his cards, and then the dealer flipped their card.
And that
7 diamonds as well. So then you win this progressive jackpot.
$500,000.
So
it's so sick.
Yeah, first thing you do, I'm like, bang yourself from the casino.
Yeah.
And
100%.
Yeah. Because you know you're probably in like,
because I would want to turn that $500,000 into $1 million.
Yeah, or like go back and have a play or whatever before
because
you
it
know
doesn't affect you. You know, it's only a couple of grand here and there.
Never my money to start with.
Yeah.
Oh well, I'm only done 30 grand now. I was up, it was actually 565-ish thousand. Anyway, they said, yeah, I have. I'm like, what a weapon.
Yeah,
like, enough smarts to know. But yeah,
so cool though.
Early 20s. But again, because someone messaged and they were like, now how many people are going to go to the casino because you're posting this?
Oh, for fuck's sake. Sick of this shit in New Zealand. Fuck off.
I think people are smart enough to know that that's probably not going to happen. And guess what? This person wasn't from New Zealand, just FYI for anybody out there. But anyway, they've got this cash, and then they're in this position. They've got to figure out. But I said, you probably, like, you need to speak to somebody and get some sense check and just slow down. And I'm not a financial advisor. I can't tell you what to do. Yet we can post this to, I'm sure to get some good engagement. People have some opinions, but get some qualified advice. And good switched on young person, they're like 100% will be doing this. Like, it's pretty life changing. And,
yeah, it's a good kickstart at early 20s.
Oh, yeah.
It's a good bounce off the ground.
Imagine even just investing that through to like,
just straight up in the S&P will do good.
Yeah, imagine just deploying it and be like, I'm not going to touch it for 10 years. What it'd be worth.
Yeah.
So, become the person that you need to be if you know that you're going to come into money or you're going to make money.
Yeah, I really like the idea of inversion, thinking out the bad stuff, and then having that as your list.
Yep.
And that's something you can build off if you are knowing, or if you know that you're going to get a big inheritance or end up with a chunk of money from somewhere. Because then that way that you should be able to remove fear with that, because that way you take away all the real bad things.
Yeah.
Once you've got that list, it's like, okay, the worst that's going to happen is I'm going to have $500,000 and it's going to stay $500,000. The next part is like the journey part, where you have to be a bit smarter and think about your options and being able to manage the mental part of it.
Well, a good way in that, like if you are coming into money or you win that money, instead of being like a lucky recipient or unworthy, you just literally start telling yourself that you're a wealth builder.
Yeah.
And what does a wealth builder need? They need education. They need to figure out where to deploy. They're going to learn from other people who are building wealth rather than like, oh, I just got lucky. And so then you're probably just going to let luck take it from you as well.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, shape who you are.
Yeah.
Like who that person is. Because without the confidence, you're going to run into issues. And I think even if like I was, before I started earning more money, I started investing and start deploying because I'm teaching myself the habit of doing it with a percentage of my income. So, I think the people these days that are like, oh, I don't have enough money to invest, it's not worth it. You probably still want to build the habits and have a crack.
Yeah.
Because one day as well, the simplest way for people to invest in New Zealand has been, okay, pay down your property and you build up equity. But at some stage, you then still got to take the next leap to build equity or to get passive income, whether it's a rental or start investing. So you can start learning about that before you get to that point. Otherwise, you're still going to get there. You're going to get mortgage free. Then you're going to be like, oh, I'm scared.
It's funny how we can't like dollar cost average into, an investment that we like forever, starting with small amounts, but we can dollar cost average every week to a bank for 30 years, eh?
Yeah.
That's strange.
I was doing a pod on this earlier, and I reckon part of it is because with a property, the true way to get the market price is to put it on the market and sell it, which people don't do. But every day you can log into your shares, your stocks, your crypto, your KiwiSaver, and find out the market price like then and there in real data.
Yeah.
So you get impacted because no one's like, if you go out there and be like, holy fuck, New Zealand properties crashed 20%. Everyone's like, bro, shut up, man. Chill out. Like, oh, just zoom out, man. Oh, no, it'd be sweet, man. Oh, yeah, but have a look over but it was up 40. Like, everyone's got all the answers. But when the stock market was down 10% in these weeks that have just gone by, everyone's like, fuck, I might change my KiwiSaver.
There was quite a lot of panic over the last couple of weeks, eh?
Yeah, because we're not used to the volatility.
I was surprised. I mean, I swallow vol for breakfast, I guess, these days. But yeah, I was quite shocked how I didn't think it was that bad a move.
Yeah, just a 10% correction. Yeah. Well, you're probably used to it playing around with Bitcoin as well over time.
Yeah. I guess you're right, though, because we've had a good couple of years, pretty much up and to the right without much movement down, really.
220s, mate. 220s positive.
You forget what it feels like to have a bit of
volatility.
Short-term volatility in it.
Yeah. Well, will it be short-term, Mikey? We'll have to wait and see.
It's short-term.
Okay.
Yeah. Today's the bottom. What are we? March 15th. It's all over.
Oh, he's told you. There we go. What else have I got here? That's about me, mate. I think as well, like if you you said it before, but you've got 100 Gs, that's sort of your number and you like having in an account. I also have felt very good in my life going from somebody who would rely on debt to get me out of an issue to now relying on funds that I've built that sit there that I can pay for emergencies, teeth, anything.
Yeah.
That feels a lot different and better than, at least I can put it on my credit card or my Q card and I'll pay it off over time.
Yeah, for sure.
Fucking promise anybody out there that one feels a lot better.
Yeah.
So maybe it's worth figuring out what your kind of figure is that you do like have set aside. But it does get to a point we did a pod maybe in 2023 where you were stacking cash, and I said to you, I was like, well, how are you going to know when you're going to start deploying it? You're like, yeah, good point. I'm going to need to figure that out. And I know you did. But
it took me longer than it should have, though.
Yeah. And
about a year.
Yeah, about a year. But all of us have to kind of get comfortable with, okay, what is that? What do I need stacked aside to feel comfortable and happy? However, again, that's a feeling. And you've decided that, and your figure will be different to somebody else's.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Also, I think once you get to a certain point with your wealth and assets and stuff like that, like a rainy day fund and things becomes, I reckon it's like that curve, you see it like starts down the bottom, then goes high and then goes back down the bottom. Like you start out broke and you don't have a rainy day fund and, you put it on a credit card or whatever. Then you get smart and you do build up the rainy day fund, but then you get to like wealthy beyond what you ever thought was possible and you don't need the rainy day fund again because you've just got shit flying around everywhere all the time and you've always got access to like something that's liquid or... Yeah, it's a funny one. But, yeah, most of us don't get there. We sit if we can, we want to get up the hill.
2 things to wrap up, mate. People overestimate their ability to pick the perfect investment and get everything right and be this fucking internet hero or like family hero that we can look back and be like, oh, I nailed all of that. A lot of people make a lot of mistakes with money. It's okay. We want to try and minimize them, but we underestimate the power of just starting. So what I mean by that is people will have paralysis of not doing anything based on I'm too scared, I want to get it right, I've got to get this perfect, what if it goes down, all this shit, instead of, okay, I'm going to start. Because it's so easy to look back and be like, I should have done that sooner. Exactly what we're talking about before. Like you then waste a year, right? And sometimes you can't get that year back. Now, the final thing is, as we often say, money is a tool, nothing more, nothing less. Now, reframe how you feel about it. If you have money in your bank account, if you have money, if you have investments, why are you scared? It's a tool that you're going to use for something in the future. You do not walk out to your garage and be like, oh, fuck, the lawnmower. Holy shit. But that thing is a scary beast. You ever flip one of those things over and see that blade that spins around?
Yeah, I know how they work.
Yeah.
Don't put your toes under them.
Bingo. Like, we know, but we don't.
Yeah.
We're not scared of it. But when you first use a lawnmower, you're like, I'm probably not going to do that barefoot.
Yeah.
And someone's going to teach you like the risks around the lawnmower.
Yeah.
But that thing is a tool,
Yeah.
just like money. And then we come to learn to not be scared by it. This vehicle here, it's a tool.
Like his Lambo.
Yeah, we learn to drive the Hot Wheels. I can't remember what this one is, but made in Thailand. You know, we learn to use tools. And when we learn to use tools more, we decrease the likelihood that we're going to be scared by these
100%.
tools.
100%, man. It's just,
It's all up here.
it's all in between those ears. Yeah, it is. And honestly, this stuff only has to be learnt once too, because once you've got it built into your, like the way you think forward and operate, it doesn't need to change. Like then the 100, then the million, then the 500,000, whatever the number, then you'll just be sweet with it. And
Yeah.
you'll always be comfortable. And
Right,
nothing's scary.
My final thing to get us out of here is that because it starts up here, like you can fix it up there as well.
Mm.
And I often say to clients and I say to people, you are so much more powerful than you realize. Why have you decided or believed that you can't do it? That you're not good with money, that you'll never build wealth, that you'll never break your family history of money or whatever. Why did you choose to believe that? When you are so much more powerful and we have so much access to information, networks, connections, and knowledge in this day and age, why the fuck did you choose to believe that it couldn't be you? Yeah, let's get out of here.
Ask yourself that, everyone who's listening, because it's not on.
Powerful.
It's not on.
No.